A beautiful woman sold all her possessions and flew over 3,100 miles just to meet the man she had fallen in love with online, a virtual romance that had lasted 2 years through nothing but a phone screen. But just a few months later, her body was discovered on a remote beach. So what exactly happened to her? The first clues began to emerge on November 10th, 2022. Fishermen working along the shores of Huacho, Peru, were startled by the loud commotion of seagulls nearby. Curious, they walked over, only to find scattered, decomposing human remains lying on the sand. Police quickly arrived at the scene to seal off the area and begin collecting evidence. According to forensic examination, the victim was a woman, approximately 50 years old. However, investigators faced immediate difficulties. Her facial features and fingerprints had been deliberately destroyed, her internal organs were missing, and the mutilation appeared highly professional. At first, authorities suspected this was the work of an organized crime group, possibly tied to black market trafficking. But as the investigation expanded, a crucial lead emerged. A record from immigration authorities matched a missing persons report submitted by officials in Mexico. With that, Peruvian police were able to identify the victim as a Mexican woman who had traveled thousands of miles to Peru in hopes of starting a new life with a man she trusted. That woman was soon confirmed to be Blanca Arellano, born on February 6, 1971, in Mexico. Blanca had once worked as a local tour guide, but when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, Mexico's tourism industry collapsed. With visitor numbers plummeting, she lost her job and was forced to become a rideshare driver just to make ends meet. However, the new job didn't bring much stability, especially after March 23, 2020, when Mexico declared a nationwide public health emergency. People stopped going out, ride requests dropped dramatically, and Blanca found herself almost completely unemployed. Most of her time was now spent at home, deeply immersed in online games. It was during this period that Blanca met Juan Pablo Villafuerte, a man 12 years younger than her. Juan was a medical student specializing in biology and pharmaceuticals at Cayetano Heredia University. Not only was he an avid gamer, but he also ran one of the largest online gaming communities in the region. Through conversations in the gaming group, they quickly bonded. Before long, Juan invited Blanca to become a co-moderator for the community. With time on her hands, she happily accepted. Their collaboration led to frequent private chats, and eventually their connection grew into something more than just a friendship. Even though they lived thousands of miles apart, the distance didn't stop them from growing emotionally closer through their screens. Their virtual relationship blossomed into a long-distance romance. Thanks to the internet, Blanca even hosted a virtual birthday party for Juan, while he responded by recording numerous songs dedicated especially to her. And so, after nearly 2 years of talking and checking in on each other every single day, the two began discussing the possibility of living under the same roof in the future. As their bond grew deeper, both Blanca and Juan became eager to finally meet in person. However, due to financial limitations, Blanca couldn't afford a plane ticket to Peru. Understanding her situation, Juan offered to fly to Mexico instead, a promise that left Blanca visibly excited. She was looking forward to showing him her hometown and introducing this special man to her family and friends. But things didn't go as she had hoped. Just a few days later, Juan told her he wouldn't be able to come to Mexico after all. Blanca, who had been so full of anticipation, felt a deep sense of disappointment. Unable to wait any longer, she made the bold decision to travel to Peru on her own to meet him. To fund the trip, Blanca began selling off her personal belongings. She sold the bicycle she used for grocery runs, some old home decorations, the car she once relied on for work, and many of her essential household items, her gas stove, warm blankets, rice cooker, and even her winter clothes. Altogether, she managed to gather just over $5,400. As Blanca was busy making preparations, Juan continued making heartfelt promises from the other side of the screen, telling her he would take care of her and that they would spend the rest of their lives together. Blanca believed him completely and started planning for a permanent move to Peru to begin a new life by his side. When her family learned about her plans, they were alarmed. After all, Blanca was a woman in her early 50s who had spent most of her life alone, now ready to give up everything for a man she had never met in person. Still, Blanca stood firm in her decision. Her family tried to convince her to stay in Mexico, surrounded by loved ones and the safety of the familiar, but she insisted that this might be her last chance at happiness. Despite their worries, her parents eventually gave her their blessing. They urged Blanca to stay in regular contact and to let them know immediately if anything felt off once she arrived in Peru. She nodded in agreement, reassuring them that everything would be fine. A few weeks later, on July 28, 2022, Blanca packed her bags and headed to the airport. Her entire family came to see her off. Along the way, they hugged her tightly and reminded her to take care of herself. Blanca told them not to worry. She planned to meet Juan in Peru, explore a few major cities, and eventually settle into his seaside apartment. Just as planned, early the next morning at 2:45 a.m., Blanca arrived at Jorge Chavez International Airport. Juan, the man she had fallen in love with online, was already there waiting to pick her up. He took her back to the small apartment he was renting in the coastal town of Huacho. From the very first meeting, the two seemed completely at ease with one another. Even though they had never met in person before, they talked comfortably, with no trace of awkwardness. Blanca happily took photos with Juan and sent them to her family to let them know she had arrived safely. Seeing that she was not alone and had someone to greet her, gave her family a sense of relief. They believed that as long as he was by her side, everything would be okay. The first few days in Peru went relatively smoothly. Blanca strolled along the beach, enjoyed the fresh ocean air, and rested in the small seaside apartment where Juan was living. The new environment helped her quickly adjust to her surroundings. Not long after, she bought a local SIM card and inserted it into a second phone. One phone was used to stay in touch with her family in Mexico, while the other was for handling her daily needs in Peru. Since Juan still had classes to attend during the week and couldn't always be home, Blanca needed a Peruvian number to order food and manage things on her own. But on November 7th, 2022, things started to feel off. Blanca, who had been consistently in touch with her family every day, suddenly stopped texting or calling for hours. There were no updates, no casual check-ins like she always sent. What alarmed her family even more was that starting that same day, all of Blanca's social media accounts went completely silent. This was completely out of character for her, as she was usually quite active online and regularly shared bits of her life. In fact, just the morning before, she had texted her niece saying that things were going really well with Juan. At first, the family assumed she might simply be busy with something and hadn't had a chance to respond. But as night fell and still no word came, their worry deepened. Throughout the evening and into the night, they called and messaged her repeatedly, without any reply. Faced with the prolonged silence, they knew they had to act. In the midst of the confusion, Blanca's niece was the most determined. She was especially close to her aunt and was gripped by fear the moment Blanca went missing. Without wasting time, she began checking through Blanca's social media connections and quickly found Juan's contact information through Blanca's profile. She immediately messaged Juan, hoping he might know something. A few minutes later, he responded, saying he had also lost contact with Blanca a few days earlier. According to him, she had broken up with him on her own, purchased a ticket back to Mexico, and was probably already on her way home. But her phone might have died, which was why no one could reach her. To clarify, Juan sent a screenshot of their last conversation, dated November 7th, 2022. In it, he wished her a safe trip to Lima capital and warned her to be careful because that route had a reputation for robberies. Blanca replied with a brief, polite farewell. Juan also reassured the niece that once Blanca arrived back in Mexico, she would surely get in touch with the family. But those messages only made her more anxious. From everything she knew about Blanca, she was convinced her aunt would never go silent like that if she were truly heading home. Whether it was a domestic or international flight, Blanca always kept her family informed about her travel plans. Because of that, the niece kept messaging Juan, asking more questions about Blanca's whereabouts. At first, he responded normally, but as the conversation went on, his tone grew increasingly irritable. Eventually, he lashed out, accusing her of interfering in his life, and flatly refused to share anything further. Feeling helpless, Blanca's family decided to take public action. They began posting appeals for help across social media, hoping someone who had seen her might come forward. Blanca's niece went even further, sharing screenshots of Blanca's last conversations with Juan and urging people to pay close attention to him. Within just a few hours, Juan's photo began circulating rapidly across multiple social platforms, drawing widespread attention and quickly sparking a media firestorm in both Mexico and Peru. Blanca's family reached out to the Peruvian consulate and posted open calls to the community, urging others to help spread the word in hopes of finding their missing loved one. Under increasing public pressure, Peruvian police were forced to step in and summoned Juan for questioning in connection with Blanca's disappearance. He showed up, but evaded most of the questions. Throughout the interview, he maintained a cold, emotionless demeanor, staring straight ahead without showing any sign of distress. Inside the interrogation room, Juan stuck firmly to his denial. He claimed he had nothing to do with Blanca's disappearance, going so far as to say he didn't even know her and had never been in a romantic relationship with her. Out of 73 questions asked by police, Juan remained silent for 33 of them. When asked where he was at the time Blanca went missing, he gave only a vague reply, that he had been traveling elsewhere. However, security camera footage told a different story. Surveillance video from a store near Juan's home captured him on November 7th, the exact day Blanca vanished, purchasing a bottle of bleach. Coincidentally, that was also the same day Blanca's family received her final phone call. This strange coincidence immediately shifted suspicion toward Juan. Blanca disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and there he was, caught on camera buying bleach at the exact moment everything went silent. That single act made Juan the prime suspect. At the same time, Blanca's family publicly called him out on social media, demanding answers. As criticism mounted, Juan responded through his own social media account. He denied being romantically involved with Blanca and claimed he had only provided her temporary housing and some financial assistance. According to him, Blanca may have misunderstood the nature of their relationship due to emotional or psychological issues. He also expressed frustration that her niece had posted his picture online, painting him as a criminal when, in his view, he had done nothing wrong and had no reason to hide. Juan didn't stop there. He went on to deny having anything to do with Blanca's decision to come to Peru. He insisted she had made the trip on her own, without any invitation or prior arrangement. When she arrived in Lima capital with little money and no support from her family, he claimed he gave her money to return to Mexico and allowed her to stay temporarily at his apartment. Notably, once the case started gaining public attention, Juan quickly changed his profile picture on social media and deleted all posts that might suggest any connection between him and Blanca. Meanwhile, according to the investigation, Blanca's time in Peru was far from the peaceful experience her family had imagined. Just days before her disappearance on October 3, 2022, Blanca contacted a Mexican airline to request a refund for her unused return ticket. However, the airline informed her that they couldn't process the request. From another angle, Blanca's day-to-day life in Peru revealed signs of hardship and isolation. Each week, Juan gave her only $22 to cover all her living expenses. On top of that, whenever Juan had to travel to Lima capital for work, Blanca was forced to stay inside the cramped rental room and wasn't allowed to leave. According to the agreement with the landlord, the unit was only permitted to house one person. Then, on October 9, 2022, everything changed dramatically. Along the beach in Huacho, Peru, a group of fishermen discovered several scattered human body parts on the sand and immediately alerted police. Although the victim's face and fingerprints had been deliberately destroyed, the precise surgical cuts on the body indicated a level of skill unlikely to be carried out by someone without medical knowledge. Most notably, police found an intact invisible-style ring still on the victim's finger. This discovery prompted investigators to shift the direction of their inquiry. Blanca's family confirmed that the ring was identical to one she always wore. In multiple daily photos shared with her family, the same ring could be clearly seen, a keepsake engraved with a personal symbol, something she considered a good luck charm and hadn't taken off for years. But there was more. Blanca loved the symbol on the ring so much that she had it tattooed on her wrist. To her, it wasn't just jewelry, It was a spiritual talisman, something she believed gave her strength and protection during life's most difficult times. In addition, Blanca's family recalled that she had a very distinctive mole on her back. In a chilling coincidence, the forensic team found a mole in the exact same location with nearly identical appearance on the remains. This deepened suspicions that the body parts might belong to Blanca, but official confirmation required a full forensic examination. Not long after, on October 15, 2022, police conducted an unannounced search of Juan's apartment. There, they discovered traces of blood in several places, mostly concentrated around the bed, the bathroom, and various other spots. DNA testing confirmed that all of the blood belonged to Blanca. In addition to the blood evidence, investigators recovered several of her personal belongings, including toiletries, clothing, and a woman's suitcase. The suitcase had a Mexico label on it. A Mexican flag was hung on the wall, and several long strands of hair were found scattered across the floor. When Blanca's family reviewed the items and photos, they confirmed that everything belonged to her. What's more, digital forensics revealed that on the very day Blanca lost contact with her family, Juan had searched Google for how to reset a ZTE phone, which, coincidentally, was the exact brand of phone Blanca used. Around that same time, a neighbor reported seeing Juan repeatedly carrying what appeared to be about 8 plastic bags out of his apartment. In addition, a friend of Juan's confirmed that on the evening of November 7th, around 7 p.m., Juan called him and asked for a favor, specifically, to ride a motorbike to a nearby store and purchase several black trash bags, cigarettes, and some cookies. About 30 minutes later, the motorbike was seen parked outside the building where Juan lived. 2 days later, another neighbor witnessed Juan taking out a garbage bag, glancing nervously around as he walked, before quickly turning into a deserted alley. His face appeared tense, as if he feared someone might be watching him. These suspicious actions began to spark concerns that something terrible had happened to Blanca. Shortly after that, Juan was seen going out again to buy cleaning supplies, and from that day forward, he abruptly stopped attending school. With the mounting evidence, police officially shifted their investigation's focus to Juan. Once the story became public, he instantly became the target of widespread public outrage. The medical school where he was enrolled wasted no time in expelling him and removing his name from their student registry. Taking advantage of the spotlight, some internet users began digging into Juan's past and uncovered a prior conviction from 2016 for domestic violence against his ex-wife. Others discovered that Juan had an identical twin brother, and in order to help people tell them apart, Juan had gotten a distinctive tattoo on his body. Still, Juan adamantly denied having anything to do with Blanca's death, even as the evidence against him continued to mount. During the investigation, police discovered that around the time the crime was believed to have taken place, Juan had been uploading videos of human organ dissections online. Disturbingly, the missing body parts in Blanca's case appeared to align with the types of organs featured in those videos. Authorities now suspect that the missing body parts could have belonged to Blanca. However, it remains unclear whether Juan acted alone or had assistance. If this case is linked to illegal organ trafficking, it could represent a crucial lead in exposing a larger criminal network. Following that theory, investigators expanded their probe and discovered that before and after the crime, Juan frequently traveled between Peru and Bolivia. He also received several suspicious deposits into his personal bank account, further fueling suspicions that he may be connected to organized crime. Adding to the concern, one detective reported that during the time Juan was involved with Blanca, he had also been secretly seeing another woman, suggesting that his declarations of love for Blanca had likely been deceitful from the start. This led investigators to believe that once Juan had successfully lured Blanca to Peru, where she had no friends, family, or support network, he was able to completely control her environment. He then allegedly murdered her and removed her organs to sell on the black market. He likely believed that dumping her remains into the sea would ensure they'd wash away, leaving no trace. What he didn't anticipate was that Blanca's family would fight relentlessly to uncover the truth and refuse to give up, no matter what it took. Finally, on October 17, 2022, police arrested Juan, They verified his identity by checking a distinctive tattoo to ensure he hadn't swapped places with his identical twin brother. At the time of the arrest, Juan was accompanied by a 26-year-old woman. She told authorities that they had met online, had been dating for about a month, and that she had no knowledge of Blanca. When she asked Juan about the woman whose name was suddenly all over the internet, he simply said Blanca was a friend from Mexico. That same afternoon, Peru's Criminal Investigation Unit officially announced that they had gathered enough evidence confirming that Juan and Blanca had lived together in the same apartment. At the scene, investigators found numerous traces of blood, suggesting that Blanca had likely been assaulted before her disappearance. As for the body parts that washed up on the beach, forensic analysis confirmed they belonged to Blanca. Based on the accumulated evidence, Juan was formally charged with organ trafficking and aggravated murder. Meanwhile, during interrogation, Juan displayed unusual behavior and repeatedly lied. Police discovered a backpack full of cash in his apartment. When questioned about it, Juan claimed the backpack wasn't his, but his girlfriend immediately contradicted him, saying it definitely belonged to Juan. He also avoided or outright dismissed many of the questions related to the case. Despite hours of questioning, he refused to provide any meaningful answers. Just a few days later, on October 22, 2022, Juan was placed in solitary confinement to await trial, with a preliminary detention period set at 9 months. During this time, he frequently complained about the conditions, saying he couldn't bear sharing a bathroom, sleeping on the floor, and having limited access to showers. When the trial finally began, Juan stuck to his original testimony and refused to change a single detail. He claimed that the blood-stained mattress found in his apartment had been purchased secondhand and that he didn't know it was already stained. He even suggested that he might have let Blanca borrow the apartment and that she could have brought someone else there, someone who might have killed her. However, by that point, the court had concluded that Juan was responsible for Blanca's death and rejected all of his explanations. Shortly thereafter, in February 2023, Blanca's remains were repatriated to Mexico. On September 12, 2023, Juan was sentenced to 35 years in prison, along with a $15,000 compensation order for the victim's family. Despite the conviction, Juan continues to insist he is innocent. He says the case has destroyed his life, his reputation, and his family. He claims he no longer wants to live, as there is no way for him to prove his innocence. According to Juan, the accusations stem solely from his background in medicine. He continues to hope that the police will thoroughly investigate the case and catch the real killer. From everything that has happened, the case of Blanca Arellano is not just the tragic story of a woman blinded by love. It's also a sobering reminder of the hidden dangers behind relationships that begin through the small screens of our phones and computers. In a digital world where anyone can present a perfectly crafted version of themselves, the truth is often the first thing to be concealed. What are your thoughts on this case? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video compelling, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our upcoming true crime stories.